Hi, everybody. You're at No Kill in Motion. We've been away for a while. It's good to be back. I'm David Smith from No Kill, Colorado. I'm here with Aubrie Kavanaugh from No Kill Huntsville, Alan Rosenberg from the New Jersey Animal Observer. In the news, I think unless you've been asleep for the past month or two, Ukraine is actually big in the news, and it really does have a lot to do with animal welfare with this disaster that's going on out there. We're seeing a lot of press about pets getting out with their owners, and also rescues that are going in there and getting animals from shelters that may have been left behind otherwise. And this is a big change, actually. And if you remember, just a short time ago in Afghanistan, the press was actually being really bad about the fact that people were trying to get animals out. And now we're seeing a completely different kind of communication out there from the media, which is great. One of the things I am seeing that's kind of, I think it's upsetting, is that people are using it to talk about how bad other people are about not keeping their pets, that, surrender's a bad thing because they're getting out. And I'm just wondering what you have been seeing out there. What are you thinking? There's a lot of history with Ukraine. Aubrie, why don't you start? Talk about Ukraine and pets and what you're seeing out there.
Well, I'm seeing the same thing that both of you are seeing, which is, on one side, you've got a lot of just really heartbreaking, but heartening images of people that are fleeing the country, and they're fleeing the country with their pets. I mean, we've probably all seen the image of a person with a German Shepherd on their shoulder, and that dog's got to weigh near 100 pounds, right? Carrying the dog across some walkway because a bridge had been blown out or something. So we're seeing people with cat carriers, with dogs on leashes, carrying animals in coats, and they're just carrying them out right alongside, mother-in-laws and children. So that's the heartening thing. That's a positive thing. But I am seeing what you have seen, which is people are taking these images and they're using it for shaming purposes. They're saying, well, if people fleeing a war zone can take their pets, well, why is it that you can't take your pet when you move? And while initially that may seem harmless, it is harmful, because I think that while there are certainly people in our country that probably shouldn't have pets and that do treat them as disposable, that's not the vast majority of our society. The vast majority of our society is people that care and they want to do the right thing. And I think that there are legitimate reasons why someone sometime may have to give up a pet. So taking it from this is a war to shame on you, I'm just really not a fan of that, because I think that there are times that people have legitimate reasons, whether it's there's been a death in the family and because of lack of planning, nobody else can take animals, or maybe there's an incompatibility between animals in the home. Two dogs don't get along, or I don't know, some life crisis. I think that when people have a need related to an animal, rather than feeling shamed about having that need, they should be received with open arms of, how can we help you? Can we help you make a different decision because you've got a resources issue? Or is this really just an untenable situation? And how can we help you resolve that situation yourself?
Alan, why don't you take it from there?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing I want to say is the tragedy in Ukraine is just horrific. I mean, human and animal. I mean, and these animal stories we're seeing, not just companion animals, even the zoo. I saw a video of the zoo being under fire, and the workers staying there to feed the animals, risking their own lives. And I even saw a transport of zoo animals to, I think, Hungary or Poland. Like a teenage girl was driving them. I mean, a whole thing of like big cats. It was crazy. But more on topic of this video, I think a lot of these memes are problematic. Number one, I think they send a message that the public is responsible for shelter killing as opposed to the shelter. It's another form of blame the public, which it is very dangerous messaging, because it gives shelters a rationale and excuse for killing. But more importantly, I think a lot of these memes miss some very important points. Number one, the videos of these people with the animals, you're only seeing the people that are taking their animals. there may be many more people that didn't take their animals. That's number one. So this may be like the cream of the crop pet owners, let's say, that you're seeing with the animals, number one. Number two, when someone has to give up their animal here, often it's due to things like, say, they're moving, they lose their house, and the only new home they can have won't allow animals. But the people leaving Ukraine really don't know whether their animals will be accepted or not accepted. So they say, hey, we'll just take the animals with us. So it's not like they're certain that they can't take the animals, say, to a new rental where that's the only place they can have a roof over their head. And finally, I think the other thing is the people in Ukraine don't even have any viable option if they don't take their animal. If they don't take their animal, they're leaving the animal in the war zone. There's no animal shelter or rescue that's going to be able to take their animal at this point. So I don't think it's a really fair comparison to a United States pet owner that has to give up their animal for economic or behavior reasons or whatnot. So I think it is really troubling. And I think the memes are just, as Aubrie said, an effort for people to shame others to make themselves feel better.
Yeah, you brought up a couple of, well, a lot of good points there, both of you. The idea that, and I hate to think of animals left behind, but we forget that. And I think of just recently in Colorado, we had the Marshall Fire, and there were people trying to get back to their home, and the cops said, "No, you're not going." And they were trying to go home, and there are reasons why you can't get to something, and certainly a war zone and shelling or something like that would make it impossible for you to get back there. And those people aren't irresponsible either, right? And it's people and pets. This whole idea, and it's the same compassion that I always say. If you have compassion for one thing, you generally have compassion for more, right? If you care about people, I think those people are more likely to care about pets and vice versa, right? It goes both ways. But when I see it twisted like this, it really kind of irks me a little bit. And it's going to get worse there. And I know that Aubrie, you and I were talking about, and I'm gonna mess up this pronunciation, Holodomor, in Ukraine back in the 30s. Where, well, Aubrie, you were talking about it more. I'm going to let you talk about what happened there, and I fear what's going to happen in Ukraine if things really get bad.
Right, and I'm no historical expert, but I've done some reading about this. There's a period in World War II. Everyone has heard the phrase Holocaust, right? But a lot of people have not heard the phrase Holodomor. And again, I'm not sure I'm not pronouncing it that correctly, but holo as in complete, and in this case, domor for starvation. During World War II, there was an effort by the Soviet Union at the time, we didn't call it Russia back then, but the leaders of the Soviet Union, including Stalin, related to the people of Ukraine to essentially to make them more submissive, to starve them out. They took over farms that were being handled by these people, and they took over the food supply, and it was a forced starvation, which was a form of genocide. And it caused a lot of people to flee Ukraine. And part of this was because people were being starved, people were eating literally grass, tree bark, roots, berries, frogs, and yes, dogs and cats, because they were starving to death. I mean, people's pets were going missing. So this is part of the history of this country. And I'm not saying that the people that we see on the news, other than maybe very elderly people, were there during the Holodomor. When I see some of these old people, some of the old women and old men that are in their 80s and 90s, they probably were children during that time. And I don't know how much memory they have of starvation then, but there is a collective unified memory of the country related to having been through this before and having been starved. And it may be kind of a leap on my part, but whether you're 30, 40, 50, 60, or 70, and you've got a family member that lived through the Holodomor and they told you about what happened, yeah, you're going to take your pets when you leave to the extent that you can. But I do agree that it's tragic. I think it's going to get worse. But back to what we've all been talking about, I hate the fact that something that we see that is positive and empowering is being flipped into a source of shame. I just think it's inappropriate. It's not the time. Let's focus on the good things that are happening, that people are doing, and how we can help, but not use it to shame people around us.
Well, I'm gonna end with that. The fact is, we're seeing great numbers of pets being saved in Ukraine, being pulled up by both the owners and also, I've seen rescue teams that are going in there and pulling animals out, dozens of animals, on every trip, and that's all they're doing. And they're going into some really tough zones. It's a beautiful thing to see. It's great that that there is positivity about it in the media, and I hope to see that continue. But that's all the time we have today. Thank you very much. I'm Davyd Smith from No Kill, Colorado, Aubrie Kavanaugh from No Kill, Huntsville, Alan Rosenberg from the New Jersey Animal Observer, and we will see you next time. Thank you.